I just remember taking a tequila bottle into the studio because I was so nervous. So I went into the studio, I took a few shots, and I was like, I'm just gonna sing. And I sang it, but I was crying the entire time. That's something I'll never forget, and it definitely defines how I am now in the studio. Hello, this is Chiquis, and this is Growing Up Banda. I grew up in Long Beach, California, and Compton. My neighborhood, it was definitely loud, a lot of music, rap music, there was banda, so it was very diverse. My mom had me at a really young age, 2 weeks before her 16th birthday, so growing up, we did a lot together. My mom's little right-hand woman since I was a baby. For the first 7 years of my life, we lived at my grandma's. My grandma made the best tamales, the best menudo. I prefer pozole, but we grew up on menudo. I just feel like my house always smelled like beans, like just, frijoles de la olla. It's Saturday, you're cooking beans on the stove, and you're mopping with pine sol and listening to music, like Marco Antonio Solís playing, like that's just what it was. As a child, I was a bit of a traviesa. I got kicked out of daycare. I would mess with all the kids like during nap time. My grandma would always say that I had lombrices, little worms in my tummy, and I just wouldn't let me just stay still. My first language was Spanish, and then it got a little difficult when I went to school. I had to go from Spanish to English. It was the best of both worlds. Being that 200% is amazing. I'm 100% Latina, 100% American. My mom really she set me out for like fashion, hacía colitas, like really high ones, really tight. I remember they would be so tight, and if I ever told her, Mom, she'd be like, no, do not complain. So Chiquis came about from my Uncle Juan. He started calling me Chiquis since I was little, and he couldn't say my name, Janae, so he just called me Chiquis. So they just started calling me Chiquis to the point where my grandpa didn't even know what my real name was. He thought my name was Chiquis for my whole life. People ask me, is it because you're cachetona, like you got a big butt, like it's chiquita, chiquiada, maybe a little bit of both, or all of it, Growing up as the oldest sibling, I for sure was a second mom. With my siblings, I was very protective over them. There was a lot of love in my home. I was very, very close to my family. They taught me how to work. I was working at the swamp meet with my grandparents since I was, 4. I would wake up early in the morning every weekend and sell cassettes, CDs. I was really born into music. All my family sang. I would hear music every single day. There was never a day where there wasn't music on the radio or playing. A lot of banda, a lot of norteño. I grew up listening to Chalino Sanchez, to Los Rasos, to Graciela Beltran, to my Uncle Lupillo, then later on my mom. I just liked how it made me feel. As soon as you hear those instruments, especially banda, there's so many instruments, like you could definitely, this is banda. And I just know that when I would listen to it, I would get happy, I would want to dance. Even till this day, it just gives me that same excitement. It just feels like home. I was in 5th grade when I realized, okay, my mom is famous. So my mom, the late Jenny Rivera, she was the best regional Mexican artist there was for a long time, and honestly there's no other female that has accomplished what she has as of now. I was her first fan. I remember kids would be like, who is that? I'm like, that's my mom, she's gonna be very famous one day. And they would be like, oh, whatever. So the first time I was on stage, I was 10 years old, and it was a singing contest that my grandpa would have every Thursday at a place called El Farallon. I won 2nd place. I really liked it. I liked the cheers, and I liked that feeling of what the audience made you feel. The first cassette, it was Selena. I remember saying, I want this, the cassette. And then I started listening to rap, and it had a lot of bad words, and my mom would get mad. My first concert was Shakira. I was 14 years old. It was amazing. I'll never forget. We were like right there. I was looking at her belly button. I'll never forget. It was just like moving. I was like, oh my goodness, this woman is amazing. I think just the fact that I grew up with music, and I had started like kind of writing poems. They weren't that great, but I just loved expressing myself in that way. And I think that's what really like set it off, that fire in me to say, you know what, I want to try this. I was probably about 16, 17, and I kind of brought it up to my mom, and she was just a little hesitant about it. She just said, you know what, it's a difficult career for women. They're hard on women, especially regional. But since I was such a Selena fan, I'm like, I want to sing music like that. I knew it was gonna be difficult because I had lived it with my mom. I had seen it firsthand. There was a lot of criticism in the beginning of my career. I was, for a long time, in my mom's shadow, I think, and it's not that I mind that because I'm very proud of who my mother is and everything she accomplished. It was a little difficult because I wanted people to get to know me, for my music, and I didn't give up, and I was like, I'm gonna do this. So I was 26 when my mom passed away in December of 2012. That year, it was a heavy year. I would always look to my mom as my protector, and if I had a problem, I would just run to her and I know she would fix everything. Before she passed, she taught me one of the biggest lessons is to not depend on anybody. So since then, I have to be my own protector, and that's what I've had to do, and work. The very first time I went into the studio, it was to record Paloma Blanca, and that was for my mom. It was a response to the last song she had sang to me at her last concert, Paloma Negra. So it was for her. I just remember taking a tequila bottle into the studio because I was so nervous. So I went into the studio, I took a few shots, and I was like, I'm just gonna sing it. And I sang it, but I was crying the entire time. It was really difficult. I was excited yet nervous. That's something I'll never forget, and it definitely defines how I am now in the studio. My first album, Ahora, my first baby. I was still trying to find myself, my sound, what I really enjoyed singing, because I have English on there, obviously Banda. I have a little bit of everything on that album. So I had learned so much from my first and my second, and I knew exactly what I wanted for my third. I was a little scared because we had to release it during the pandemic, but I mean, we won the Grammy. Winning the Latin Grammy was amazing. I mean, I still I look at it and I'm like, wow, I'm so grateful. It's not just my win, it's everyone that believed in me. And that's something I had set for myself. I've had to face a lot of adversity, and you have to be tenacious to make it, especially being a woman in regional Mexican music. I'm definitely a passionate person in everything that I do. Even when I'm upset, I'm super passionate. I love hard, I hurt hard. Sometimes there was a lot of pressure growing up because I'd always be the example, and I really didn't have any rooms for mistakes. It was hard. I had to grow up pretty fast. Now I embrace it. Now I want to be that example for my siblings. I do my best to have integrity in everything that I do, to be loyal, to be true to what I'm doing. Being the oldest, I'm the one that's in charge of keeping us together no matter what happens. We need to come together because that's been my promise to my mom. That's how I feel like I'm honoring her legacy.